Court, the doors be open. Alors, statements by members, déclaration de député, l'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, as of yesterday, passengers can carry knives on planes thanks to the Transport Minister. It's also thanks to him that land that was protected in Mascouche has been destroyed to build an airport, despite almost everyone's opinion to the contrary. As is it the case for the loss of a big contract to a German company at the expense of workers in La Pocatière. The Transport Minister's record, a Quebec minister, is pathetic, Mr. Speaker. It's not very good. It's not great. This week, a historic delegation from the North Shore has come to Ottawa to settle once and for all the issue of the extension of Highway 138 to get people on the lower shore out of isolation and precarity. People on the North Shore deserve respect from this government. The minister has an opportunity to do something good for them, for Quebec, for once. It's about time, eh? The Honourable Member for Pontiac.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to stand in the House today to acknowledge the tremendous work of Meredith Brown of the Ottawa Riverkeeper, who will be stepping down from her position as Riverkeeper after 15 years of stellar advocacy. Ottawa Riverkeeper is a non-profit charity whose special responsibility is to be the full-time public advocate for the Ottawa River watershed. It's the Riverkeeper's job to educate and identify citizen complaints, figuring out solutions to problems that affect our watershed. Meredith Brown has served the public interest, working tirelessly to protect and restore our watershed. Under her leadership, the organization has grown from 1 to 10 employees and now includes hundreds of volunteers. Fundraising efforts are more solid than ever, and relations with the Algonquin Nation have improved dramatically. So I'd like to thank this Pontiac constituent for her hard work, her dedication, and her commitment to protecting our right to swim, drink, and fish in the Ottawa River. We need leaders like Meredith Brown to continue to ensure the ecological integrity of our habitats across Canada. So, Meredith, miigwech, thank you, merci, on behalf of the entire National Capital community.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, along with a member for Lambton-Kent-Middlesex, I attended the Kent County Agricultural Hall of Fame. Robert Kerr and Art Skafsma were honoured this year as inductees, as well as George and Ruth Bieber, who were honoured posthumously. The list of their achievements would require much more time than is allotted. Suffice it to say that their accomplishments are extraordinary. Mr. Speaker, I have visited Ukraine, where the topsoil is 10 feet deep, but they cannot match Kent County's production, and their crop output pales in comparison. The difference, Mr. Speaker, is the people. People like those inducted into the Hall of Fame who have helped make Kent County one of the most productive agricultural areas in the world. I take this opportunity to congratulate Robert Kerr, Art Skafsma, and George and Ruth Bieber, as well as the hundreds of farmers, both past and present, who have helped give Kent County its rich agricultural history.
Hear, hear. Hear. The Honourable Member for Mississauga Centre.
Mr. Speaker, mental health issues know no ethnic or cultural boundaries. Too many of our youth from cultural communities suffer in silence. So I want to tell you about Nasiha, which is an organization that offers support to youth. Nasiha is Arabic for advice. It was founded by Yassine and Sumaya Puna over 10 years ago. They started with a volunteer helpline for Muslim youth with the aim of providing teens support that understands their situation without judgment or shaming. Today, Nasiha employs professional counselors and has open phone lines 7 days a week. They receive calls from tens of thousands of people from all backgrounds, all over Canada and around the world. They deal with issues such as depression, bullying, suicide, domestic violence, radicalization, intergenerational challenges, and identity questions. Nasiha is a valuable partner to organizations such as CAMH, school boards, and Kid Help Phone Line. I want to thank their directors, staff, volunteers for their excellent work.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Leanne Gauvin from Hearst received the Community Teachers of the Year Award from the Ontario College of Family Physicians in recognition of excellence in supervision of family medicine residents and medical school students. Dr. Gauvin was nominated by her students who praised her as a role model in terms of her empathy for her patients.
In rural and northern Canada, family doctors play a big role in the health of our communities, so it's nice when their hard work is acknowledged. That is also the case for Little Current's Dr. Peter Poen, who has been recognized by the College as Family Physicians as a Family Physician of the Year, the highest honor presented to a family doctor who makes a significant impact for their patients. The award is no surprise to Dr. Poen's colleagues, who testify to his skill as a physician, leader, educator, and note that he also serves as coroner for the region. Please join me in thanking Dr. Gauvin and Dr. Poen for their dedication and congratulate them on their awards.
Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
Mr. Speaker, today is Albanian Independence Day. Dita e Pavarësisë. After 500 years of Ottoman rule, an independent Albania was proclaimed on November 28, 1912. On this day, the Albanian flag was raised in Vlora, which is why this day is also called Flag Day. Le jour de l'indépendance de l'Albanie.
On their Day of Independence, celebrations are held recognizing the colors of the flag and traditional dress.
Held in Albania and throughout the diaspora, and involve customary Albanian music and dance. On this day, I would like to salute Albanians across our country, including the Albanian Canadian Community Association of Toronto and the Albanian Canadian Excellence Society, and Albanians everywhere as they celebrate their nationhood. Gesva festen e pavarësisë.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, November 25th to December 10 marks the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. It is tragic that in 2018, this is still a reality, though so many Canadians experience on an ongoing basis. We are faced with daily reminders in the news and in our communities that we can and must do better. It is clear that everyone in our society has a role to play in ending gender-based violence. I would like to take a moment to draw attention to Wynn House in Edmonton that does tremendous work to support women and children fleeing domestic abuse. Wynn House provides a safe place, emergency services, and comprehensive programs to help support and empower victims. I recently had the opportunity to visit their facilities. I want to thank them for their hard work and the safe refuge that they have created. Due to organizations like Wynn House, victims do not need to be defined by their experiences. Together, we can work to ensure that gender-based violence is a thing of the past. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, for the residents in my riding of Brampton West, the recent increase in reported gun violence is a very concerning issue. Over the summer, I, alongside my colleagues from Brampton, appeared before the Peel Police Services Board to voice our concerns over what we are hearing from constituents to ensure that policy changes were made to reflect the community's feedback. I want to let the residents of Brampton West know that our government does not take these reports lightly. We're stepping in to ensure that police agencies have the resources and tools that they need to combat gun violence with $86 million investments recently announced by our Minister of Public Safety. This investment, alongside the introduction of common sense firearms legislation and our work with the Peel Regional Police, forms a comprehensive plan to ensure that all Bramptonians feel safe and secure in our community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise with a heavy heart to draw attention to the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Yemen. According to a recent report by Save the Children, 85,000 children under the age of 5 may have died of starvation since the onset of hostilities 3 years ago. 14 million people remain at risk of famine. In times of war and conflict, the most vulnerable segments of the population, women, children, and the elderly, also suffer the most. Today, I call on my colleagues from all parties in both chambers and on parliamentarians around the world to do everything they can to draw attention to this unconscionable suffering, to highlight channels for humanitarian relief, to amplify calls for a ceasefire, and to support the efforts of the United Nations, particularly those of UN Special Envoy Martin Griffiths, whose work includes the negotiation of access points for aid delivery. Mr. Speaker, the tragedy in Yemen calls into question everything that defines us as morally conscious beings. It must be brought to an end.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicholas.
Mr. Speaker, Peter Klein, born Horst Klein, passed away on the morning of November 7, 2018, at 84 years old. He's survived by his loving wife, Krista, his 3 children, Daniela, Dagmar, and Christopher. As a young man, Peter became a mastery pastry chef, and eventually Peter and Krista moved to West Bank, where they would start their own business, Peter Klein Fine Cakes and Pastry Limited. Despite business and health challenges, Peter remained ever the baker. His greatest honor was to bake the annual Canada Day cake for Westside Days. To the delight of everyone in attendance, he baked the massive 6x4 cake, a Canadian flag of white icing and strawberries. He did this every year for 12 years, earning him the love of his community and a Diamond Jubilee Medal. His final year of making the Canada Day cake, he trained his successor, Anya Dumas, who plans on continuing with this important tradition. On behalf of the community, local Rotarians, the Westside Days Committee, rest in peace, Peter. I'll miss you as a friend, and certainly you were a great Canadian, and I appreciate all you've done for me and for the community.
Honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
November 25th to December 10th is the UN Women's 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. This year, the Unite campaign is using the hashtags HearMeToo and Orange the World. Gender-based violence can take many forms: sexual violence and harassment, domestic assault, the use of rape as a weapon of war, attacks on women human rights defenders, violence against the LGBT community, the particular vulnerability of Indigenous, racialized, and disabled women, cyber-sexual violence, and trafficking of women and girls are just some examples. This year, I would particularly like to draw attention to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime Blue Heart campaign to end human trafficking.
Each one of us has to take action to end the silence and impunity. Over the course of the 16 days of activism, swing into action and join the global movement against gender-based violence.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I have the privilege of welcoming my constituency youth council to Ottawa, where they're visiting for the day to learn how government works firsthand. These are smart, driven, and compassionate young Canadians who have chosen to get involved and make a difference. Last week, they joined me as I partnered with Mental Health Commission of Canada to host the Headstrong Summit. This partnership is the first in Canada, and once again, Richmond Hill is in the forefront. Headstrong is a youth-oriented initiative to break the stigma around mental illness, partnering with schools, and sharing lived experiences. It was a fantastic opportunity for these young women and men to connect with other youth advocates who understood the importance of breaking the stigma and helping those who struggle with their mental health. I welcome them once again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, Monday night I stood in this House during the emergency debate to discuss the announcement of the GM plant in Oshawa that was closing. 2,800 unionized and non-unionized workers will lose their jobs because of this decision. The cities of St. Thomas and London, the township of Southold, and the county of Elgin met a similar fate with the closure of the St. Thomas Assembly plant in Talbotville when Ford announced that they were closing. And then the community was hit once again when the Sterling Truck plant announced that it would be closing its doors and moving out of Canada. Families across the region were impacted by these job losses. Auto haulers, cafeteria employers, secondary suppliers, all of these companies and workers fell victim to these closures. We need to support the families of Oshawa by all levels of government working together. I urge this government to work with all federal party members to find a solution for the workers and families in the Oshawa region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Alfred Pellan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to highlight the work of Paoletti Graciopo-Terrien, a chartered professional accountants partnership whose team is here on Parliament Hill. Founded in 1983, Giovanni Paoletti, Santo Graciopo, and Benoit Terrien, by them. This firm is a major player on the accounting scene in the Greater Montreal area.
Personalization and quality, search no more, because Paoletti Gracioppo-Tellier is the place to go. Through their services, their uncompromising work, they make tax season a breed and not a nightmare. Over and above the personalized services and the passion for their work, Paoletti Gracioppo-Tellier supports various charitable causes and gives back to the community every chance they have. Grazie Giovanni Paoletti, Santo Gracioppo, and Benoit Tellier for your hard work over the past 35 years and to many more to come. Yay!
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
December 13th marks the 81st anniversary of the Nanjing Massacre. In recognition of the crimes against humanity and in the spirit of never again, I'm calling on the government to declare December 13th of every year as Nanjing Massacre Commemorative Day. Up to 300,000 people were killed, and estimated 200,000 women from occupied territories in Asia were tricked or coerced by the Japanese Imperial Army into sexual slavery. The UN recognizes 19 countries where sexual violence is used as a tactic of war. If we can learn from history and commit to preventing it from happening again, humanity benefits. Order of Canada recipients Joy Kagawa, Dr. Joseph Wong from Canada Alpha, Satsuko Naramatsu from Japanese Canadians in support of Nanjing Massacre Commemorative Day, CACA, NCCC, CCC of Greater Vancouver and Toronto, the Korean Senior Citizens of Greater Vancouver, the Canada Philippines in Solidarity for Human Rights, along with close to 440,000 petitioners across the country are in support. I hope all members will as well.
The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing today to acknowledge an event happening this evening on behalf of the United Way, Leeds and Grenville, and in celebration of our dear friend, the former Member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes, Gord Brown. The United Way Leeds and Grenville has teamed up with the Gord Brown Memorial Canada 150 Outdoor Rink Project to offer hockey enthusiasts the opportunity to raise money to help make positive changes to lives in this community. It really was Gord's vision to create a better life for all the citizens in Leeds and Grenville, so let's all help him with this vision. Thank you very much.
No member for Madawaska-Restigouche.
Due to the current crisis facing the Francophone community of Ontario, official languages minority groups have reason to wonder if their rights will be questioned every time a new government comes to power.
As Canadian society evolved, our predecessors rightly saw fit to protect and promote minority language communities wherever they were found across this country. The Official Languages Act of Canada is an indispensable tool to that end.
We all know the strongest of laws is meaningless if the political will to enforce it is absent, or if the majority is unwilling to adopt it as a fundamental principle.
So I call on my colleagues to fully grasp the importance of valuing both official languages so that they're no longer the concern of just the minority, but rather the pride of the entire nation.
Absolument.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the government has a bad deal for our agricultural producers, for forestry, for steel and aluminum. There is a crisis in our oil sector as well. And now we're losing jobs in the auto sector. This is all the fault of our government, this government and this Prime Minister. When will the Prime Minister stand up and fight for Canadian workers and the industries that employ them? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. From the very beginning, Mr. Speaker, we have been standing up for our workers and for the industries throughout our country. We had the highest economic growth rate of the G7. We have the lowest unemployment record in 40 years. And in our last, most recent economic statement, we have invested $14 billion to help industries to invest in jobs, to invest in our economy. We will continue to listen to and work with our workers and our industries to build a stronger Canada.
It's Liberal policies that are actually hurting the ability for businesses to invest in Canada and create jobs. It's Liberal policies in Ontario that created massive increases in energy costs, something that our competitors around the world don't face. Liberal increases to payroll taxes make it more expensive for employers here in Canada to keep jobs here. And now the carbon tax is making it more difficult to invest in Canada. We know that because the government admits it. So will the Prime Minister give the same exemption to other businesses that he's granted to large industrial emitters?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are concerned about our seniors. We are concerned about our future seniors, which is why we strengthen CPP for future generations, something the members opposite oppose, which is something he indicated right now. We are making sure that we take action in lowering small business taxes to actually support our small businesses right across the country, and we invested in an accelerated capital cost allowance program that is going to help our businesses be more competitive. And as to making sure that we put a price on pollution, Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that the way to build the economy of the future and the jobs of the future is to prepare for the transition, and that's what we're doing.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's this Prime Minister's policies that is transitioning the auto sector right out of our country. He knows that his carbon tax is making it more difficult to keep jobs here in Canada because he said it himself. That's why they've granted a massive exemption to large industrial emitters. Now, workers in Oshawa are fighting to keep their jobs, Mr. Speaker. The least that this Prime Minister can do is help them in that fight. Will he repeal the carbon tax so that Canadian auto sector jobs can stay right here in Canada?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have continued to invest in businesses and in workers right across this country. Of course, our hearts go out to the workers in Oshawa who are facing these cuts, but we continue to stand with them and we will continue to fight for them, Mr. Speaker. In terms of understanding that the best way to secure jobs for the future is to take genuine action on climate change and aid our economies and our families to support and to thrive through the transition to a lower carbon economy. That is what we are doing. The members opposite have no plan and instead just try to play politics.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is going to have to put on his teaching hat here and explain the logic on this one. So for large industrial emitters, the carbon tax will kill jobs, and so they need a massive exemption to protect them from competition from other countries. But that very same carbon tax will somehow create jobs in the auto sector. That makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. The carbon tax is bad for all Canadian workers. Now that we've seen the impact of this policy chasing future jobs and investment away, will he do the right thing and cancel his carbon tax?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously all of our hearts go out to the workers and we will plan on supporting them. And I have to highlight that when I spoke with the Premier of Ontario, we agreed we were going to put partisanship aside and focus on how we were going to support the families suffering and worried because of this decision it's taken. On the question of carbon tax, of pricing pollution and putting a price on that pollution, we know that making sure that pollution is not free is how we're going to move forward on protecting jobs, on protecting our future, and protecting the environment for future generations.
Order. I've heard a number of interventions by members, including member for Barrie Innisfil, and I'd ask him to restrain himself and try to remember that we speak when it's our turn. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's not just the auto sector that this government's policy has had a devastating effect on. It's also the energy sector in Canada. It was his decision to kill the Northern Gateway project, which would have opened up Asian markets. It was his decision that killed a pipeline that would have brought Western energy to Eastern Canadian markets. And as a result, there have been drastic job losses in Alberta. Now, the Prime Minister knows that under the Conservative government, 4 major pipeline projects were built. His preference is to phase out the energy sector. My question to him is, was it always his intention to phase out the energy sector before the next election?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've always worked to demonstrate that we understand that growing the economy and protecting the environment need to go hand in hand, and that we will continue to do.
But I would like to highlight, Mr. Speaker, the fact that for 14 days now, or 14 days ago, the Conservative government in Ontario slashed Francophone services, and the Leader of the Opposition hasn't even asked me a question on that. We think it's a very important issue. We think it's very important to talk about it and to stand up and protect Francophones, and that's why I'm so pleased that I'll have an opportunity to sit down with the Leader of the Opposition later this afternoon. Order.
Alors.
Order.
Shh. Order. L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Nejet, Témiscouata, Les Basques.
Speaker, the announced closure of the GM plant is devastating for the families of the 2,500 workers and for the community. But it's not just workers and families in Oshawa that are worried about the future. It's all auto workers across the country. The Prime Minister must do more than just express his disappointment. He must demonstrate some leadership and develop a national auto strategy such as the one proposed and advocated by the member of Windsor West, if he wants to make sure our auto industry doesn't just survive but thrives. Will he do so?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously we continue to stand with workers at the GM plant and right across the country. We know that the auto sector is a vital element of our economic growth. That is why we fought so hard for it in renegotiating the new NAFTA deal. But specifically, since November 2015, our government has invested $389 million in 37 projects undertaken by Canada's automotive sector, resulting in nearly $4.1 billion in total investments in the sector. That is the work we're doing to support auto workers in this country and have done over the past 3 years.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Nejet, Témiscouata, Les Basques.
Having a strategy.
That's right.
Ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que cette
What one has to understand is that this week it's GM, but their closures, other closures could follow, and that's why the federal government must put together a concerted strategy to protect jobs. It must also make sure that the Canadian auto sector makes the shift to electric and hybrid vehicle manufacturing. The Prime Minister has expressed his disappointment, but now he has to show leadership. Will he at least convene a summit on the future of the auto sector with the unions, industry, provinces, and mayors of communities whose economies depend on the auto sector? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for 3 years, we have been working with unions, with the industries, with workers, with communities, precisely to attract investment. And that represents $4.1 billion total of investment in the auto sector here in Canada that we have been able to attract because we believe in the future of workers, we believe in the future of our industry, and we will always put the quality of Canadian workers at the top of our list of priorities. Thank you.
Jean-Pierre.
The Honourable Minister for Jean-Pierre. Mr. Speaker, the Oshawa GM plant closure was terrible news for thousands of families. Workers are angry. How can a government give billions of dollars of our money to a big company with no guarantee that our jobs will be protected? Will the Prime Minister fight to save jobs in Oshawa, or will he continue to simply give gifts to big corporations while asking for nothing in return? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to fight. When I spoke to the CEO of GM, I recalled to him that we have a long, proud history with GM in Oshawa, and this is thanks to the quality of our workers. As I said yesterday, we will be here to support workers and their families who are going through a very difficult time. And at the same time, we are putting together a plan that will be based on new initiatives involving new technology, consumers.
But yesterday, the industry minister said in this House, read my lips. Well, the people of Oshawa have been reading those lips all week, and what they see is a Liberal government that will do nothing to save their jobs. The Prime Minister is throwing away another $14 billion to corporate CEOs but has shown that he is not willing to do a thing for Oshawa auto workers and thousands of others whose jobs are threatened by the closure. Why hasn't the Prime Minister convened an emergency meeting of Labour, business and elected representatives to save those jobs? Why won't the Liberals act?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the member opposite had better relations with Labour, he might have learned that I sat down with Jerry Dias yesterday and had an excellent conversation with Labour about what we were going to do on next steps to fight for those GM jobs, to support our workers. We are going to continue to work with Labour, yes, with industry, and with workers and local community leaders right across the country, but particularly in Oshawa right now, to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support those families.
Honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday past, the Prime Minister announced that effective immediately, the Liberal member for Brampton East would be resigning. We've heard that it had to do with health problems, then it was gambling problems. We have heard that, as well, the Ethics Commissioner delisted the investigation on the basis of the Prime Minister announcing the member's resignation. You yourself clarified yesterday, Mr. Speaker, that the member certainly has not resigned. As a result, the Ethics Commissioner has relisted the inquiry and the investigation going on, and the RCMP has sought access to records. When did the Prime Minister know that the member from Brampton East was under investigation by the RCMP?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member informed us of challenges he is facing and put out a public statement on his decision to resign. We agreed that his decision, which he announced in his statement, was the right one to take.
Honourable member for Milton. Order.
Well, we appreciate the clarification on the member's decision, but what we're seeking is to know when the Prime Minister knew that the RCMP were investigating the member. Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail is reporting today that the member publicly questioned senior officials in the RCMP and other law enforcement agencies about the way they investigate money laundering early this year. At the same time, the Mounties were probing his multimillionaire gambling activities and sought to determine the origin of the funds. Mr. Speaker, this member was removed from this committee September 19th. When did the Prime Minister know he was under RCMP surveillance?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we learned about the member's challenges last week when he came forward and told us about his gambling addiction. We also will highlight how important it is to ensure that everyone understands that the RCMP's investigations happen completely independently and without giving advice or notification to any politicians of investigations that they need to undertake.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail reported this week that the Liberal MP for Brampton East not only gambled millions of dollars in casinos, and we're all wondering where the MP got that kind of money, by the way, but was also under investigation for months by the RCMP. This situation is extremely worrisome, very troubling. Yet another Liberal MP engaged in questionable activities. My question now to the Prime Minister is the same. When did he become aware of the RCMP investigation into the member? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I learned last week of the challenges that the member was facing, and we immediately recommended that he act, and we agree with his decision to withdraw from this House and to resign from his responsibilities as a member. Obviously, the RCMP will continue its work independently without any interference from politicians. The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, we're talking about a Liberal member, and as far as I know, he has not been kicked out of the caucus. Now, he was also part of the delegation on this disastrous trip to India that the Prime Minister had organized. And he even invited his former boss along. And interestingly, the same MP was recently asking questions to the RCMP at the Standing Committee on Finance on how they investigate money laundering. So now the Prime Minister is saying that he's only become aware of all this since last week. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, obviously, I became aware of the MP's situation last week, and we accepted his decision to withdraw from politics. Now, we know that there are many outstanding questions that the RCMP is looking for answers to, and we have full confidence in the RCMP that they will do their work properly.
For Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, it's been a week since the Liberals announced their undefined, mistargeted, temporary patch, $600 million plus election year bailout for Canada's struggling news industry. Owners and publishers who get million-dollar checks and bonuses, and partisan big union bosses, not surprisingly, praise the bailout. But dozens of this country's most respected journalists have denounced it because it casts a dark shadow over the independence of their craft. Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister now understand how acceptable this bailout is in an election year?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, a free and independent press is the cornerstone of any democracy. We understand that. We also understand that the transformation of the news industry and the digital challenges that they're facing require new models to support a strong, independent journalism. And that's why our government is choosing to step up to defend the independence and the strength and the capacity of journalists to do their job in this country. We know that attacking journalists, as the members opposite like to do, is not the way to strengthen our democracy. We will support the capacity of journalists to do their job independently.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is clear from that answer that the Prime Minister doesn't understand the economic and technological realities that have created this crisis for our free and independent Canadian news industry. This bailout, Mr. Speaker, isn't a long-term remedy. It's a temporary patch which ignores, for example, suggestions from the Public Policy Forum, like ending tax write-offs for advertisers on foreign digital platforms or resizing the mandate of Canada's semi-private public broadcaster. Mr. Speaker, why won't the Prime Minister listen to Canada's independent journalists?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the conspiracy theory being peddled by Conservatives is insulting to the intelligence of Canadians and to the professionalism of journalists. The Conservatives think Canadian journalists can be bought. We don't. We know their work is essential to our democracy. France, Sweden, Germany, the UK, and many others took action to support journalism without compromising its independence. But newspapers are going through a crisis. That's why we're taking action right now to help them get through this crisis and continue to stay strong and defend our democracy the way they always do.
Order. Most members in all parties can sit through a question period and hear things they don't like without reacting. I'm sure the rest are adults and can also do so. The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister chose to appoint the member for Parliament from Brampton East to the very powerful Finance Committee. While there, he used his access to senior finance officials and money laundering experts to ask very troubling questions, and I will quote, "How many resources does FinTrack have to go after each little $10,000 transaction? If I'm money laundering, I'm doing transactions in the millions, not doing it in millions to catch attention. I'm doing them at the $10,000 to $15,000 limit to get away with it." These questions were so disturbing they raised red flags at the RCMP. Did the Prime Minister or anyone in his office find these questions so disturbing that they acted upon them?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, last week the member stated his intentions after informing us of the challenges he is facing. As I said, we agree with the decisions he has taken to step down.
The member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Yeah, this one. The Prime Minister is claiming ignorance.
Order. Apparently there are problems hearing. Is it the audio working now? The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These answers are not going to satisfy. I don't think the Prime Minister is fully understanding the gravity of this situation. He's claiming ignorance, but on September 19th, in the middle of its study on money laundering, the Prime Minister removed this MP from the Finance Committee. The RCMP, FinTrack, and the Ethics Commissioner are all investigating this colleague and friend of the Prime Minister. He said he knew nothing. He did nothing. So once again, did the Prime Minister remove the Member of Parliament from Brampton Brampton East from the Finance Committee because he was using his position to avoid possible prosecution.
You're right, Honourable Prime Minister.
No, we did not.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Before the 2008 global crisis, Minister Flaherty invested $40 billion. Now, to be fair, the Liberals before did the same. These decisions prepared us for the upcoming crisis. Now, once again, we're seeing problems in the energy sector, the auto sector, increases in interest rates, and crises could happen in the future. So how much of the national debt has our Prime Minister paid down? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the 2008 crisis, the Conservative government spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on the Canadian economy and were not able to show any growth in the economy for Canadians. On the contrary, Stephen Harper's government had the worst economic growth rate of all prime ministers since Bennett during the Great Depression, decades ago. We know that investing in Canadians, investing in infrastructure, investing in the future is what Canadians need. The honourable member for Carleton.
To blame the Conservatives for a global financial crisis that started outside of our borders and from which Canada was the first country to recover and after which the first to balance its budget. Now, at the time, Liberals said spend more, spend now, spend faster. They wanted the deficit to be even bigger. We managed to control the deficit, balance the budget, and come out stronger than before. The question is, he promised the budget would balance itself in 2019. When will the budget balance itself?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, twice in that answer, the member opposite talked about the fact that the Conservatives got to a phony balance just in time for the election. Well, the way they did that was by cutting services to our veterans, cutting the Canadian Border Services Agency, by cutting in programs and opportunities for Canadians, and by cutting and saving on things like the implementation of Phoenix. They brought together a phony balance that hurt Canadians, that hurt the services, and that's why Canadians kicked them out.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Well, basically every fact he stated was false in that response, but that will not distract from the reality. He likes to talk about what Canadians chose in the last election. Well, Canadians were told that the budget would balance itself in 2019. In good faith, they trusted the then Liberal leader that he would keep his word. Now the deficit is 3 times the size he promised, and there are deficits for another quarter century to come. When will the budget balance itself?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, $150 billion. That's how much the Conservative government added to our deficit without growth or jobs to show for it. We have watched over the creation of close to 600,000 new jobs in Canada, the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years, the fastest growth in the G7 last year. We have done that because we're investing in the middle class. We lowered taxes for the middle class and raised them on the wealthiest 1%. We delivered a Canada Child benefit that helps 9 out of 10 Canadian families.
I'm hearing some language that is unparliamentary, and I'd ask members to remember what the rules are in that respect. The honourable member for Carleton has the floor.
Well, Mr. Speaker, stating falsehoods about our record will not distract Canadians from the promise that he made to them in the last election. He said that if he were elected, we would have 3 tiny temporary deficits. Since that time, we've had large deficits. This year, 3 times the size he promised. Next year, when the budget was supposed to balance itself, it in fact will be bigger than it is right now. So the question is, one more time, he promised that the budget will balance itself when?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, Canadians had a choice between a government that was committed to cutting and balancing the deficit at all, balancing the budget at all costs, or our government that was looking at investing in communities, investing in Canadians, supporting small businesses, lowering taxes on the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%. Canadians made the right choice because we have grown the economy, we have created 600,000 jobs, we have seen the unemployment rate drop to record low levels. The economy is doing well because we're investing in Canadians.
The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
This week we've learned it's impossible to clean up the 250,000 litres of oil spilled near St. John's. This environmental disaster is Newfoundland's largest oil spill ever. Turns out the Liberals' so-called Ocean Protection Plan doesn't protect oceans after all. First the Marathossa, then to Nathan E. Stewart, now this. No wonder British Columbians don't trust the Liberals on Trans Mountain. Newfoundland proves they don't have a credible spill recovery operation in place. Canadians want to know, is this the Liberals' idea of world-class oil spill response?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our historic investments in an ocean protections plan of $1.5 billion will work with local communities, partner with top scientists, partner with Indigenous communities, and demonstrate that we have the capacity to respond to spills and to protect our coasts and the livelihood of those who depend on them. We know that there's always more work to do, but we have focused on investing smartly, on trusting science, and working in partnership with provinces, municipalities, and Indigenous peoples to keep our oceans safe.
Député de Drummond.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the meeting among party leaders to discuss the crisis around French language services in Ontario is a step in the right direction. We know just how much Liberals just love consultations, but the time comes when you have to act. What Franco-Ontarians want, that's what the Prime Minister should be listening to. Will the Prime Minister confirm that he intends to act and not just have meetings that are smokescreens? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have invested historic sums in official language minority communities. We will work with these communities countrywide. We will work with Franco-Ontarians, among others, to defend their institutions, their communities, and to make sure that their communities succeed and thrive in years to come. I'm very happy to sit down with the leaders of other parties to discuss how we're going to continue working on this, because it's an issue that unites us all.
Mr. Speaker, I recently met with community members and representatives of the Nature Conservancy. They were all particularly concerned with protecting our land, our water, oceans, and wildlife. Like many British Columbians, I recently heard the Minister of Environment and Climate Change announce that we're investing $7 million to expand Canada's iconic Darkwoods Conservation Area in the Kootenays of British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, would the Prime Minister please explain what further actions are being taken to protect our nature, our biodiversity, our Canada?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for South Surrey White Rock for raising this important issue, for his hard work on the file, and for his outstanding fashion sense. Last week, we were thrilled to announce our $7 million investment in the expansion of the Darkwoods Conservation Area. This investment builds on the historic action we're taking to protect nature in Canada, including committing $1.3 billion this year alone to protecting our lands, water, and wildlife. We'll continue to work hard to protect our natural heritage for our children and grandchildren.
L'honorable député de Louis.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, more and more dark clouds are gathering in the sky regarding Canada's economy. Canada has lost 2,500 jobs in the auto sector, 3,000 jobs in aeronautics. We invest more in the U.S. than the U.S. invests here. That's their record. Does he have any solution to deal with this reality? Does he have anything else to offer but a tax on carbon? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing from a Canadian, and not only Canadian, but a Quebecer, talking about what's important. Well, I can say what's important. It's important to invest for the future. And Quebecers have shown their support for us putting a price on carbon. So I believe that the member across the way should perhaps reflect on his position vis-a-vis our fighting climate change. The honourable member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to hear the former member for the Right Honourable Prime Minister and former member for Papineau, talk about how to bring down GHGs. We brought it down 2.5%. Mr. Speaker, while these dark clouds are gathering in the skies around our economy, what will be a real problem? The tax on carbon. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the Honourable Member for Louis-Saint-Laurent really has the environment at the heart of his concerns, he might discuss this with his leaders so that he can talk about his plan to deal with climate change issues. They have no plan to fight climate change, and Quebecers really expect more, as do all Canadians.
Order. Order. The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's policy has just cost thousands of Ontarians in Ottawa their jobs, and he's forced more than 100,000 Albertans out of work with no end in sight. He insults Albertans by just saying he, quote, feels that frustration and understands that anxiety, while the Finance Minister says he's, quote, watching carefully. It is within the Liberals' control to fix this crisis that they created. The reality is 3 companies wanted to build pipelines when he was elected. Now they're all gone. And this crisis harms workers and families in every single province. So instead of empty platitudes, what exactly will the Prime Minister do today to fix the mess he's made?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to be in Alberta last week to listen directly to the concerns of folks in the oil sands, of business leaders in Calgary. We know there is work we need to do together, and we will do it. But the one thing they ask for is the one thing they've been asking for more than a decade, Mr. Speaker, to get our resources to new markets other than the United States. And for 10 years, that Conservative government that pretended to be a great friend to Alberta was unable to deliver on the one thing they asked for more than anything else. We, Mr. Speaker, are focusing on getting things done the right way, and that's exactly what we'll do.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Over 2,000 Albertans were in Calgary last week to tell the Prime Minister not to come back until he has a solution pipeline. He said spending billions of dollars on the Trans Mountain Pipeline would get it built, and he can't get construction started. And he gave Canadian money to go to the U.S. to compete with Canada. He landlocked Canadian oil, costing provinces billions of dollars. He defends using tax dollars to stop Canadian pipelines. We'll make that discount permanent. When will he withdraw his No More Pipelines bill?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Conservative strategy of shouting and shaking your fist at things actually got things done, Mr. Harper would have gotten 10 pipelines built in new markets, but he didn't. Mr. Speaker, we have taken a different approach, and we have approved the LNG Canada terminal in BC, the largest private sector investment in Canada history. We expanded export capacity for the Alberta Clipper project. We approved the Nova Gas pipeline, the Line 3 replacement project, the Arno Appetite Mine, Wood Fibre LNG, the Ridley Island propane terminal, and more. We are doing things the right way to get them done for Alberta.
Order. 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 It sounds as though I'm already in the hockey rink where it'll be hopefully as noisy as this tonight in a better way. And I have
the honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, The replacement of night staff at the Rouen airport by an automated weather station is of concern to everyone. This automated system proposed by NAV is not 100% reliable in detecting things like freezing rain. Other airports, such as Windsor and Bathurst, are also targeted. Will the Prime Minister opt for the safety of the public and maintain night services both in Rouen and elsewhere? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As I said to people in Rouen, Rwanda, not too long ago, we are very concerned with their safety, and we want NAV Canada to continue its consultations to ensure that there is safety and the necessary services.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals have been dragging their feet to finish a Wollaston Lake Road project. For 30 years, Hatchet Lake Dene First Nation has been fighting to get this all-season road done to make their community accessible. Without it, they have to fly in their already overpriced food and supplies. Northerners deserve answers. Why are the Liberals ignoring Hatchet Lake Dene First Nation and refusing to complete the Wollaston Lake Road project once and for all?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no relation is more important to this government than that with Indigenous peoples, and that's why we're moving forward on a true nation-to-nation relationship in partnership with them, but why we're also taking concrete action on definitive projects that are going to make a difference, whether it's ending boil water advisories, building new schools, building roads and community infrastructures. We're going to continue to work hand-in-hand with Indigenous communities right across this country to give them opportunities to grow their economies and make sure that they have every opportunities that all Canadians have.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, evidence in the legal proceedings regarding Vice Admiral Norman showed that the President of the Treasury Board had told two different stories with respect to interference in the supply ship contract. In the House, he said that it was his role to ask questions about the contract. But when interviewed by the RCMP, he said that wasn't his role. Does the Prime Minister still have confidence in the President of the Treasury Board? I have to say that it would be inappropriate for me to comment on this issue while it is before the courts.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the Treasury Board can't seem to keep his story straight. What he told this House is completely different than what he told the RCMP. Now, we are not asking the Prime Minister about a court case. We are asking about whether a minister can be trusted and whether he told the truth. So a simple question for the Prime Minister. Does the Treasury Board Minister still have the full support of the Prime Minister?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to say that every single member of my cabinet, including the President of the Treasury Board, continues to enjoy my full confidence.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Canada, at the Prime Minister's direction, just voted against eight measures at the United Nations designed to hold Cuba accountable for things like the release of political prisoners, the promotion of gender equality, abuses that prevent freedom of assembly and speech, and Cuba's prohibition on the workers' rights to strike. In doing so, Canada stood against these measures with the regimes of Iran, Syria, and North Korea. Will the Prime Minister reverse his shameful position on these votes?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we continue to stand as a strong voice for human rights around the world in a broad range of cases. We will always make decisions on the best way to both support Canadian interests and defend Canadian values at any multilateral forum, whether it be the UN or anywhere else. Canadians can count on us to stand up for the values and priorities that we hold dear.
The Honourable Member for London North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in my community of London, Ontario, the Pillar Nonprofit Network supports more than 600 nonprofits, social enterprises, and social innovators by helping them share resources and knowledge and building connections between nonprofit, business, and government organizations. Could the Prime Minister tell this House what the government is doing to support organizations such as Pillar, as well as the many social enterprise businesses and organizations like it across the country. Thank you very much.
Honourable Prime Minister.
I want to thank the member from London North Centre for his hard work and for highlighting the important role social innovation and social finance play in developing innovative solutions for pressing social problems and community needs. The Social Innovation and Social Finance Strategy Co-Creation Steering Group recommended creating a social finance fund to help accelerate the growth of social enterprise in Canada. Well, last week, we committed $755 million for a social finance fund, which will help generate up to $2 billion in economic activity and help create and maintain as many as 100,000 jobs over the next decade.
Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, it's been revealed that under this Prime Minister, over 3,000 veterans had to wait over a year to have a decision made about their worthiness to receive the benefits that they've earned. That's completely unacceptable. He said he wouldn't take them to court. He's doing just that. He said they were asking for too much, and he broke his promise on pensions. This Prime Minister has been failing our veterans for the past 3 years in government. When is he going to stop pointing fingers and take responsibility for his failures?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I will take no lessons from Conservatives on how to treat our veterans. They shuttered 9 Veterans Service Centres in order to create a phony budget balance just in time for the election. They nickeled and timed our veterans while using them as props in photo ops. What we've done, Mr. Speaker, is invested over $10 billion in veterans over the past 3 years. We've ensured that we're improving services, that we're improving supports to families, that we're giving veterans the services they need, including following through on a pension for life commitment that we made to veterans. We will continue to stand up for our veterans.
Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
It is the 81st anniversary of the Nanjing Massacre. Approximately 300,000 people were killed, and an estimated 200,000 women from Japanese-occupied territories were tricked or coerced into sexual slavery. A family member told me today, my grandmother and mother never stopped talking about what happened and how shameful it was that so much of the world never even knew. On behalf of Order of Canada recipient Joy Kogawa and nearly 40,000 Canadians, I ask, will the Prime Minister declare December 13th every year as Nanjing Massacre Commemorative Day? Yes or no?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course we deplore the horrific events that took place in Nanjing 80 years ago. All Canadians can agree that the loss of life and violence that so many civilians faced should never be forgotten. We will never forget those terrible acts. The memory of these victims and survivors must be addressed in the true spirit of reconciliation.
Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Mr. Speaker, over the past few weeks, the government has signed 4 agreements with respect to superclusters in the Prairies, Ontario, Atlantic Canada, and British Columbia. Can the Prime Minister tell us how this initiative will prepare talented Canadians for innovative jobs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for his unstinting work in this area. We are investing in jobs by transforming ideas into concrete jobs. We are working with businesses of all sizes, universities, and nonprofits. These 5 superclusters should lead to 50,000 new jobs and grow the Canadian economy by $50 billion over the next 10 years.
Mr. Speaker, last week, Conservatives and New Democrats worked together to try to fast-track a bill that would effectively fight forced organ harvesting. This bill has the support of high-profile Liberals like Irwin Cotler, but this government chose to delay the bill, substantially reducing its chances of passing. Victims have waited too long. Why are they delaying action on the forced harvesting and trafficking of human organs?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is an issue we take very seriously. Obviously, the protection of Canadians is something that is fundamental for any government to be responsible for. We will continue to work with all interested parties to move forward on this important initiative.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Prime Minister.
His government has refused to include the government of Nunavut as a signatory to 2 Dene treaties. These treaties will infringe on and limit the territorial government's legislative authority. Observer status just doesn't cut it. The government of Nunavut has to be a full participant. As the Premier has said, the government of Canada cannot simply shove this agreement down Nunavumut's throat. This is unprecedented. Will the Prime Minister tell this House why his government has excluded the government of Nunavut as a signatory to these important treaties?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to advancing reconciliation with Indigenous peoples through the conclusion of modern treaties. Treaty negotiations are conducted in confidence between the parties at the negotiating tables. We are hopeful that the modern treaties will meet the interests of all negotiating partners and will be concluded in the very future.
The member for Vancouver East is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that if you seek it, you will find there's unanimous consent from the House for the following motion, that the House recognizes that 81 years ago, Imperial Japanese Army forces raped an estimated 20 to 80,000 Chinese women and girls, and approximately 300,000 people were killed. That after the Nanjing Massacre, the military sexual slavery system for the Japanese military expanded rapidly, and an estimated 200,000 women from Korea, Philippines, China, Burma, Indonesia, and other Japanese-occupied territories were tricked, kidnapped, or coerced to work in brothels to serve as, quote, comfort women to the Imperial Japanese Army. That Western eyewitness in Nanjing described the atrocities as hell on earth. That the House of Commons in 2007 unanimously passed a motion in recognition that the Imperial Armed Forces of Japan used women as sex slaves during the Second World War. Therefore, in the opinion of the House, that the government formally acknowledge this by declaring December 13th of each